be reading out of Luke chapter 16, verses 1 through 9. Jesus told his disciples another story. He said, there was a rich man who had a manager. So some said the manager was wasting what the rich man owned. So the rich man told him to come in. He asked him, what is this? I hear about you. Tell me exactly. How do you handle what I own? You can't be my manager any longer. The manager said to himself, what will I do now? My master's taken away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig. I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'm going to do. I'll be something so that when I lose my job there, people will welcome me into their houses. So he called in each person who owned his master something. He asked the first one, how much do you own? I own 800 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, take your bill, sit down quickly, and change it to 400 gallons. When he asked the second time, and how much will you pay? Oh, I owe 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. The manager told him, take your bill and change it to 800 bushels. The manager had not been honest, but the manager praised him for being clever. The people of this world are clever in dealing with those who are like themselves, that are more clever than God's people. I tell you, use the riches of this world to help others. And that way you will make friends for yourself. Then when the riches are gone, you will be welcomed into your eternal home in heaven.
Amen. Thank you, Ty. That's a good reading, Ty. Thank you so much. I'm really pleased to have our young men serving communion and bread today and the offering and participating like this. And next week I have a commitment from Caleb that he is going to help, right? Good. Isn't it good to get our people involved, training and serving in the Lord? And I really appreciate our elders here. Mike, who teaches our class this morning and led us in a spiritual prayer. And Jeff presided here at the table, and he leads our singing. So thank God for these men who lead and serve in this church. Well, this is a difficult reading today. What does it mean? Did Jesus praise dishonesty? This has been a puzzling parable. It's the most puzzling and provoking parable Jesus told. It's strange. Critics of the Bible and critics of Jesus have looked at this story and said, look, Jesus is not so ethical after all. He's not so honest after all. He's even praising a crook. Is that what the Bible says? I think we need to look at this story very closely. The Bible doesn't say that the shrewd manager acted dishonestly, and Jesus praised him for that. It says the dishonest manager acted shrewdly, and Jesus praised him for that. There's a world of difference in those two statements. Jesus did not praise the dishonesty. He praised the shrewdness. When we look at this story, the Bible says here that there was a manager who had acted wastefully. The word wastefully there is the same word used for the prodigal son. He went into the far country and wasted his living. The Bible doesn't say that this manager at this point was dishonest. It doesn't say that. It said he was wasteful. He wasn't a good manager. Now evidently this rich man owned these fields. And there were people then that lived on his fields or his vineyards. Kind of like for cash crop. Kind of like at the end of the year some of the farmers do. They farm other people's land. And then at the end of the year they give them a part of the money they make as rent. And this man is in charge then of this rich man's big estate. He may have hundreds of acres. He's very rich. And the manager is the guy in charge of collecting all the rent and keeping the books. So the Bible tells us here that this manager wasted. Now it doesn't say he was a fraud. It doesn't say he did anything illegal. He just wasn't very good with his accounting. He wasn't very good with managing. He wasted things. I believe if he had been a fraud and doing illegal activity, the owner would have had him arrested and put in jail. But he was just wasteful. You know people sometimes that are wasteful. They waste food. They waste possessions. They waste their land. They don't take care of things. They're negligent. And this man was negligent. He wasn't doing a good job. So the owner heard about it. And he said, "You're fired. You're fired. I don't need you anymore managing my books. You didn't do a good job. So I want you to get all the records together, bring them to me, and give an accounting. We'll see what's been happening, and you're out of here." So the man was still on the job. He still had some responsibility, but he's going to be investigated. So he quickly thinks to himself, I'm caught. I'm going to be investigated. I'm going to have to show my books. I'm going to have to show where I wasted money or I didn't manage well. He says, what am I going to do? I'm a white-collar worker. I'm not used to physical labor, digging ditches. I can't do that. I've never dug a ditch in my life. I've got tender, soft hands. That's back-breaking work. And then he said, you know what? I'm ashamed to beg. Stand on the street corner with a tin cup. Please help the poor. Please help the poor. There was an Old Testament saying in some of the Old Testament, in the literature of Old Testament times, not in the Scripture, but in their literature of the Jews, it said, it is better to die than to beg. And so he said, I used to collect money from the very people I'm going to be asking to give me money as a beggar. I can't do that. So physically incapable of hard work, psychologically embarrassed to beg. What am I going to do? I'm in a mess. So he says, I've got an idea. I've still got my job here till I can turn the books in. So I'm going to call in the people that owe money. And I'm going to change the books. I'm going to make friends out of these people. I'm going to let them know I care about them. And if I care about them and show good kindness toward them, they'll remember me. You know, one good turn deserves another. And so what I'm going to do is be nice to them, since I'm in charge. Then when I'm out of a job and out on the street, I'm without a home, I'm homeless, these people will like me because I did them a favor, and they'll do me a favor. And they'll take me into their house and feed me and give a roof over my head. That's what I'm going to do. Pretty shrewd, wasn't it? Pretty clever. This guy's a rascal, but he's a clever rascal. And so he calls the first guy in. He calls in all the servant people that owe money, and there's only 2 examples given, but that's enough to prove the point. So the first one comes in and says, well, how much you owe my master? Oh, I owe 1,000 baths of oil, 1,000 gallons of olive oil, or 800, 900. Actually, the Greek word there, according to all the scholars, means 8.78 gallons times 1,000. So he owes, times 100. So he owes about 900 gallons of olive oil. That's enough olive oil, the scholars say, that comes from 146 trees. That's quite a lot of acreage. This man owes a big debt. That, according to the scholars, was worth 1,000 denarii. A denarius was a day's wage. That's 1,000 days of work. So that's about 3 years' work. What do you make in 3 years? Well, that's how much this man owed. And so the manager says, all right, you owe that much, cut it in half. Right down to $450. Hey, what a gift! That's quite a gift. Sure, they wrote it in the book. That's all you owe. Okay, good. Remember me. The next guy comes in. Well, what do you owe? Well, I owe 1,000 bushels of wheat. A bushel of wheat, 1,000 bushels would weigh 20 to 30 tons. Now, back in Bible times, they only got 10 bushel to an acre. You get over 100 today sometimes, because you've got modern technology and fertilizer and everything else. But they had a hard time with it, so they got about 10 bushels to an acre. So that's quite a lot of acreage of land to get 1,000 bushels. And so he said, how much you owe? I owe 1,000 bushels. He said, well, just write down 800. So he knocked it down. First guy, 50%, because it was a bigger amount. Now he just knocks it down 20%. But he still gives him a good discount. And he gives him a favor. And that was worth 800 bushels of wheat would be worth about 8 to 9 years' work. 8 to 9 years' work. And so the man really gets a discount. And he, take it, remember me. So this is a shrewd guy. He's using money to make friends. Even crooks appreciate other crooks when they're shrewd. You ever go see gangster movies like Godfather? Gangster movies are crooks. Ocean's 11, wasn't that about some crooks who robbed a casino? And you watch the movie and you say, man, those guys are clever. Look at how they did that. How did they get by with that? And you watch the gangster, and when you're watching the gangster movies, you almost sympathize with the gangster. But you don't really want the gangster to win, but when you watch them operate, you say, boy, they're pretty sharp fellows, aren't they? And so the manager sees what's happening, or the owner sees what's happening, and he praises the dishonest manager. He's dishonest, but he's shrewd. So he appreciates his cleverness. He said, boy, you were really using your head, weren't you? And Jesus says, telling the story, that the dishonest manager acted shrewdly. He was smart. Now, Jesus didn't say the shrewd manager acted dishonestly, because he's not praising dishonesty. He's praising shrewdness. Now, what's all that mean? You can learn a lot of good things from a bad example. And Jesus often told stories, or he did refer to things that were wrong to illustrate a point. Like, for example, in Luke the 18th chapter, he told about an unjust judge. And this widow came before him and begged for help day after day after day. An unjust judge, a crook, a wrong type of guy. And yet Jesus used him as an example of how much more God is able to answer our prayer and willing to help us. And so you can learn from negative examples positive truth. And so Jesus uses a negative example to illustrate something. Shrewdness. What is shrewdness? It's using your head for more than to hold your hat. It's using your head to think. So Jesus says, the children of this world are wiser in using money than the children of God are in spiritual matters. What's he saying? He's saying the children of God, he's talking to his disciples, you notice verse 1. He said, look guys, if you're going to be my disciples, I don't need you to be the dumbest kid on the block. I need you to be as wise as serpents. Now there's a negative example. Snakes. Everybody here afraid of snakes? But Jesus used snakes as an example. Be as wise as serpents. And so Jesus is saying to them, you need to learn something about wisdom from these crows. From these people that manage money out here, that care nothing about God, and yet they're shrewd and they're clever and they manage their resources. Application is, you as a Christian, as a believer, follower of Christ, you have a lot of resources. You have time and opportunity. Now use those resources cleverly, shrewdly, wisely to serve God. You know, people of the world can teach us something. I don't mean how to do sin. They can teach us how to be smart, how to be dedicated, how to be insightful. For example, a week ago I was watching television. The Buffalo Bills were playing in Buffalo, New York, in almost a foot of snow, it seemed. Freezing weather. People are bundled up in coats and hats, and they're watching, and they got snow plows out there on the field and snow blowers to even see where the markers are, and they're running in snow, and they're there to really enjoy a ball game. And they sat there for 2.5 hours, freezing, watching the NFL game. And yet I know some church people, 49 drops of water on Sunday morning keep 50 people from coming to church. If people can be so dedicated to sports that mean nothing eternally, what about the people of God being dedicated to righteous things that mean something eternally? That's Jesus' point. Are you as dedicated? Are you as clever? Are you as wise? Or are you as committed as worldly people are to what they're doing? Jesus said, be clever, be shrewd, think. The children of this world are wiser than the children of light. Because the children of this world, they manage their money, they plan, they make friends. You know, one good turn deserves another. You know, and they know how to build network and how to build a business by involvement with people. Jesus says, wait a minute, there's a lesson there. And the lesson is, you church folks, you be just as smart. You use your head. You use your thinking processes to do something. Blindness is as bad as badness. Blindness. What do I mean by that? Blindness means you don't recognize your opportunity. You know, when Jesus was crucified, he said to the crowd, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. They were blind. And they crucified Jesus. They didn't recognize him. And sometimes we don't recognize what's going on. And when we don't recognize what's going on, we get in big trouble. A few years ago, there was a book that was written, that was distributed to every preacher in the state of Kentucky. It was written by a woman and her husband. The book was called Understanding Woman. It was a story of this couple who had adopted a little girl. And this little girl was taken to dance recitals and music lessons and went through school and was being educated and groomed for a great future. When she turned 13 years old, she committed suicide. The family was devastated. Why did our little girl, that we had such great promise and hopes for her, kill herself? And the book told this story. It said the girl was growing up, she was reaching puberty. Her body was changing. It was acting differently. Things were happening to her, and nobody explained to her why it was happening, what was wrong with her, as she thought. It was a natural biological function, but she didn't understand it. She thought she was bad. She thought she was wrong. And she was desperate and depressed, so she killed herself. And the book said, preachers, wake up. Make sure that all the parents and the families in your church teach their children what happens when life changes. So they won't be surprised and upset and depressed and distressed. They'll understand that this is God's way of moving from a girl to a woman. See, she didn't understand. If we don't understand what's happening to us, what we're doing, why we're doing it, if we don't have insight, if we're not clever in thinking, then we can be disappointing Jesus and harmful to His cause. All right? What do you see here? A glass of water. It's got some red coloring in it, so you'll see the water in a clear glass. How many think this glass is half empty? Let me see your hand. Come on now. How many think this glass is half full? Let me see your hand. I didn't know I was preaching to a bunch of optimists. I am, aren't I? When you look at the glass and you say it's half empty, you're saying, poor me. I'm depressed. I don't have much. I can't do much. It's worthless. It's wasted. When you look at the glass and you say, it's half full, you're saying, wow, half full. I've got a resource. I've got a treasure. I can do something. I'm not all the way, but I'm part of the way, and I'm on my way. That's the way to look at life. That's what Jesus is saying. Don't look at life half empty, as though I can't do anything. I'm worthless. I'm wasted. Jesus says, look at life positively. Look at what you can do. The children of this world are wiser in their thinking sometimes than the children of God. And then Jesus makes this statement. Watch it. He says, use your resources. This is verse 9. To make friends, so that when you die, you will be welcomed into the eternal habitations. What's he saying? He's saying, all right, you've got money, you've got time, you've got resources, you've got farms, you've got abilities, you've got opportunities. Use what God has given you. Even if it's a glass that's half filled, use it so that it will bless other people. So that when you die, you know what happens when you die, don't you? It's like Monopoly. You know Monopoly? You play it for 3 or 4, 5, 6 hours. You handle big bucks. You change all the money. And when the game is over, you know what you do? You put all the pieces back in the box. So someday they're going to put us in a box. Isn't it strange how that people, young couples, start off, they need a 1-bedroom apartment. Then as time goes on, they need a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom. Then they need a house and a bigger house. And they get to the point in life about midlife and the kids are going away. They say, you know, we need a smaller house and a smaller house and a smaller house. And you know what they end up with? A 1-bedroom apartment. Right where they started. And you know what happens to all the things they've collected all over the years? They're gone. They're given away. They're given to the kids, or they're sold. Or they're put on the street corner and say, if you want it, pick it up. Someday you will reach the point where the important documents of your life and remembrances of your life will be put in a desk drawer at the nursing home. That's it. What Jesus is saying is this. Be clever. Use your money now to make friends. How do you use money to make friends? Well, Jesus said, lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. How do you lay up treasures in heaven? Are you going to take a spaceship and go up there and put some money in heaven's bank? No. Because when Jesus comes, all the money in the world is going to be turned into cinders and ashes. It's over. So what do? You use it now to help people, minister to people like the clever manager did. He helped people. so that he could get a blessing later on when he was in need. So when you die, everything you use for God has already been sent ahead. You can't take it with you, but you can send it on ahead. The other day, a friend of ours sent us a request. A lady over in Poland, single mother, had a job with a broken down car. Cost more money to repair, it was cheap, things were happening, she couldn't get to work, she couldn't earn a living to feed her children. So this friend of mine said, will you send money to help Osanka buy a car? Judy read that. She said, I want to help Osanka. So Judy wrote a check for $100 and sent it in. The friend in his ministry collected all the money all over the country. The people read the report and sent in the money. They got about $10,000. They bought Osanka a car, a good used car, reliable, safe. I've never met Osanka. I probably never will. But someday, when this life is over, and I've been laid in the box, and Judy's been in the box, and we've been worm food for several centuries, maybe. Jesus doesn't come first. We're going to be resurrected. We're going to stand at the middle southeastern gate of heaven, as it were. There's going to be Jesus. He's going to say, welcome home. There's going to be Osanka. She's going to say, thank you. Thank you for helping me. Because of you, I was able to take care of my family. I was able to serve God better. I was able to share the gospel with others. And I'm here today because you helped me. Elijah and Kristen Peters baptized some people down in Auckland, in Wellington, New Zealand, North Island, South Island, somewhere where they work down there. It was in their report just recently. Young lady, young man in their 20s, baptized them into Christ. They're Christian. They're with the church. God's people. They're headed to heaven. I've never met them. And I probably never will. But this church sends $3,000 a year to help Kristen and Elijah. They couldn't do the work. They didn't pay their bills and pay for gas and a car and utilities and a house and airplane tickets to America. How could they work if they didn't have any money? They can't be beggars on the street. So we send them money. You send them $250 a month. Someday, when this is over, folks, and it's going to be over, it's coming to an end. I mean, just look at my hair. Look at my age. Look at my body. It's coming to an end. We're all getting weaker. We're either losing our hair or it's turning gray and white. I had a barbershop this week, all the white hair on the floor. I said, it looks like you just trimmed Santa Claus. It's happening to us. It's going to be over. And guess what? Who's going to be at the middle southeastern gate? Those people from New Zealand. They're going to say, because of you, because you can. Because you enabled a missionary to come to our country and teach us about Jesus. We learned the gospel. We were saved. We served God. And now we're here to greet you. So Jesus says, be shrewd. Be wise. Be clever. Use what you have to serve God now. That's what he's saying. Because the time is coming when if you spend it on yourself, more luxury, more affluence, more fun, more recreation, more golf clubs, more new cars, bigger houses, bigger retirement funds. Someday, all of that will be gone. You will stand naked before God, spiritually. And you won't have anything sin on you. Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, Jesus said, where moth and rust do not consume, and thieves do not break through and steal. But where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. We can learn lessons from a clever rascal. And Jesus proved it, didn't he? Let's be shrewd. That's being clever. So when we pass and we stand before Jesus, I praise God, that there will be souls there that are there because you can. In a few weeks, we're going to have a World Bible School workshop right here. We're inviting all the churches to come. You can teach people the Bible on the internet or by postal service through correspondence courses all over the world, United States included. And you have an opportunity to teach souls, to invest yourself, to win souls for Jesus, so that when you die, and we're all going, and we stand before the great judge of all time, there will be some precious souls there to meet us. And they're going to say, thank God. Thank God. You cared. And that's why I'm here today. Amen? Amen. Let's stand and sing.
What will you do with Jesus? The question comes to you.